You are watching Xirtus.
I think people still like it wasn't just a fad. People still like people like Byung Chul Han, and I think this comes back to a lot of his statements about our issue with working culture. And he's like, it's much more fulfilling to just think about building your own escape hatch to all the problems that we've created for everyone. And so it's like, what is this escape hatch? And I'm kind of with him. It's like, well, it's very tempting to get into that line of thought of how do I just build a golden parachute for myself so I don't have to do this shit? What country do I need to escape to that makes all this, less stupid? And that is important. I think it's actually productive to think about that to a degree, but I think you have to contrast that with like the whole message of Albert Camus. He said, well, to what degree is your own escape hatch, the idea of an escape hatch in your mind that you're building, how does that contrast with lucidity? How does that contrast with not seeing, the human condition with full clarity of like, well, maybe no matter where you escape to, you're going to experience, just like this one world problem that we're having. And
Well,
like
what's that they say about chop wood, carry water?
Yeah. Well,
explain that. I'm totally oblivious to chop wood, carry water.
I mean, what greater golden parachute in existence is there than quote unquote enlightenment? And it is said that even after reaching quote unquote enlightenment as an individual, guess what? You're still going to have to chop wood. You're still going to have to carry water,
like there's a mentality about work that exists that is work is fun. Like I know some people who actually have fun working. They enjoy their jobs. And yeah, it comes at a price, of course, but the alternative also comes at a price. The do nothing culture comes at a great price. And so the idea, being before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. And that is part of loving fate. That is part of loving the situation that you're in, as opposed to wishing that you had a parachute, because life is the greatest gift as
Embrace
opposed to
the
trying to escape. It's like, you spend your time trying to escape the matrix, and like, is that the point? Maybe it is, but are we trapped, or is the trap in our own minds?
Right. And there's a difference between a job and work, right?
Yes, I was just gonna say that.
Fuck. Yeah. Biblically, job is Job. Biblically, a job is being Job. It's the archetype of God and the devil, who like don't really care about you except for what you do for them. Clearly Lucifer doesn't care about you, and so a lot of people will go to Lucifer in Satanism in hopes of self-realization, to become the most powerful version of themselves they can get. But that's not because Lucifer is like trying to help you become the most powerful person you can be. It's usually like kind of a feudalistic capitalism where Lucifer gives you as little as possible for as much as you'll give them back, which is your soul. But the same thing for God, right? Because God is saying, I'm going to let you suffer in exchange for you worshiping me, which is a really weird trade. That's like, this is kind of what Subgenius talks about, like Jehovah One, this idea that your life is a gambling like agreement between God and the devil. It's a bargain between God and the devil that you didn't make, and you're suffering. That's a job. That's what Job goes through. God kills, with Lucifer, allowing Lucifer to, all of Job's family and destroys all of his property, and just sees if he'll reject God, right? It's a weird thing what a job is. I think that's often when I know people that have a job, that's kind of Kurt, how it sounds to me sometimes, how you feel. You feel like your education was stolen from you, like your livelihood was stolen from you, your dream was stolen from you. You had this, musical aspiration. It's like, this is stolen from you by God and the devil, right? And that's not what work is. And work is like ecclesiastical. And I think probably my favorite book from the Bible, is super short, right, is Ecclesiastes. And Ecclesiastes, you got Proverbs and you got the Wisdom of Solomon, and these are all books about Sophia. But I think Ecclesiastes is more clearly about Eris and Sophia at the same time, about the chaos of everything. It's like this guy who's his king, who wished for wisdom, so that because he's like, oh my God, I got to take care of these people. And so he makes a wish upon a star, and he wishes not for money, not for fame, not for glory, but wisdom, so that he can help know what's right to do in this he's been given this responsibility of taking care of his people. He wishes for wisdom to know what to do in that circumstance. And God gives him wisdom to be the greatest, most wisest king ever. At that point, if you have wisdom, then you have responsibility over other people. Also gives him gold and money and fame and everything else, because all that comes with responsibility, which I think is something we learn. The more responsibility you have, the more it makes sense for you to be held accountable for all sorts of material. I want to say wealth, but again, it's more obligation. More wealth is more obligation. So Solomon says, like, hey, I was a king, I was a rock star, I'm paraphrasing here, but I did a lot of crazy stuff with my life, and I've seen a lot of things. I've been a lot of places, I've met a lot of people, and not much of that is worth anything. Not much of that makes me a better man than you, or makes me happy at all. I'm not happy because I've been seeing the sunset, like, it's not that I've had an existential ride that you can't compare to. It's so much more what I've experienced. I've had sex with so many more men, women, and beasts of the field. I'm a rock star. That's basically the way it comes off. And in that exchange, literally, Solomon ends up becoming converted into a beast, a wild beast, and he's a beast of the field. He's like, it's the crazy things this man's been through. But he says, of all of my experiences, what I've learned essentially is like the most valuable thing, the most joy that I've ever found, the most joy that anyone I think can ever find, at least what is good. The only thing that I can confirm is good is for people to enjoy the fruits of their labor, right? To eat and drink and enjoy their labor, the fruits of their labor under the sun during the short life that God has given them, and to accept that life, right? I think that's maybe what work even supposedly means. And a lot of work comes back even, when you think about the first primordial idea of work, you're talking about Adam and Eve again. And so they've made this major mistake. They're in trouble, and God doesn't punish them. They punish themselves, right? They no longer can just appreciate the bliss of being here now in the Garden of Eden. So with this fruit of knowledge, what does God say? God says, you will work hard. You should work.
Well, with this fruit of knowledge, it's like, fuck, we got a mortgage? Damn, we got taxes, we got bills. Oh my God, I got to do all sorts of evil shit just to survive, just to pay off this mortgage.
And you're killing animals, you're killing life, and you're praying about it. Saying, I'm sorry that this is where I'm at with that, but it's all work. You're toiling and stress and childbirth. Even the creation of life for women is a suffering thing. It's painful. It's not as painful for some animals to have a baby, which is weird, right? Like, you think like a horse giving birth, that's got to be like the most painful experience possible, but they seem to have less pain. A horse giving birth to a giant horse is less painful, it seems, to a horse, of course, than to a human. Like, humans go through so much suffering to bring life into the world, and suffering to get out of the world through suffering in life. So it's like a medicine. Work is a medicine. It's like, here's the best thing I can provide you that will help you, is you can now work, and work will set you free. I can't say that in German.
I did say practice is the goal, right? I don't get paid to do martial arts. It's work. It's nothing. It's work in its purest form, work for its own sake. And yeah, I agree. It led to a lot of things like liberating myself from. For example, I put more time into work. Suddenly I'm more free from like drinking. Suddenly I'm more free from doing like bad shit I would have done probably if I were more idle. Stuff that my friends would innocently invite me to. It's like, yo, let's go clubbing. Yo, I got a gram of Molly from the Netherlands. Yo, it's going to be a great time. And it's like shit like that. It's like, because of work, it kind of freed me from that, which would have inevitably led to suffering, like stealing happiness from tomorrow type shit.